Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the third and final day of the 2024 Bermuda Youth Climate Summit. We're very pleased to have you guys all back with us today for the third virtual session, where we're going to be hearing again from youth activists, subject matter experts, and local NGOs as well, who are working to engage climate action in Bermuda. We're very glad you guys are all here to join us, but we're also going to remind you that today is one of the bridging days in which we bridge you towards your own projects and actions, and we're going to ask you as well to participate in that track selection that we'd mentioned earlier in the summit. Reminder that there's going to be around conservation, sustainability, and climate justice. And if you are a YCS alumni, then we'll have a special session for you there for you to pre-register for. Thanks so much, and we're very happy to share this programming with you, and I'm going to turn over to my other co-host now.
Hi, good afternoon, Leah Jeremy, as always, and I'm just here to introduce to you all our Saturday Action Project, which will be revealed in more detail to you on the on-site sessions, which is the Citizen Scientist Bio Blitz at Spittle Pond from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Just to start off our session, I would like to refer back to some questions from yesterday that were asked, but were not answered by Alex Pilgrim in our Q&A with him yesterday. And our first question is from Warwick Academy. Are there any signs that certain coral species are evolving or adapting to warmer waters? And Alex Pilgrim says, this is a very interesting question. Unfortunately, he doesn't know. What he does know is that there are different coral species which thrive in naturally warmer waters. So it would be interesting to see the genetic information behind those species and how we could use that to help with our subtropical corals. Dr. Samia Sarkis with Bermuda's Living Reefs Foundation would be an amazing person to reach out to, and her information should be dropped in the chat. Our second question is from BHS. Were some of the photos taken at North Rock? Alex says, North Rock has some of the healthiest corals that he has ever seen in Bermuda's waters. The photos of bright colored coral were most likely from North Rock.
We also had another question. Alex, what do you think are the challenges to deploying offshore wind power in Bermuda? To which Alex replied, Bermuda's normalized wind direction shift between the summer and the winter months, which means we would have to carefully consider the turbine placement and the type. Using offshore turbines in Bermuda is feasible, but we would have to consider water depth as well for floating or fixed turbines and the wind direction. We would benefit from turbines that can rotate to face the wind direction, yielding the most energy. However, the biggest challenge with offshore wind, he says, is that it's very expensive. And indeed, while I'm out here at the COP29 summit and we're discussing financing for these matters, offshore wind is expensive. But these two are opportunities in which you guys as well can pursue. And financing and deploying these things is crucial climate action that all of us need. So just before we get into the rest of our program, guys, we're going to introduce another of those Menti pools you've been very good at participating in. So please click that link as well that you've had in the chat. And please answer the question, what environmental issue do you think is most pressing? And following that question too, how confident are you that you feel you can make a difference or an impact on that issue? Global warming, absolutely. Pollution, yeah. Yeah, that was a big part of it. We saw yesterday there was a triple planetary crisis mentioned: pollution, global warming, and biodiversity loss. Deforestation, yeah, that contributes to global warming a lot. Spreading awareness is certainly something that we need to do a lot more of. Melting of the icebergs, that's right, that's occurring because of global warming. And rising sea level as a result of those melting icebergs too. Air pollution as well. I mean, we heard from Sarah Goody how bad of an issue that is even with the wildfires they're experiencing, and that can have impacts on our health. These are great answers, guys. Keep them going. Greenhouse gases, yeah, that's all contributing and driving these issues. And that's what's responsible at the end of the day for this climate change. Wildfires, These are fantastic, guys. It looks like you're really getting a hang of a lot of the issues that are coming together with climate change. Now that we're identifying all of these problems, it makes it a lot easier for us to name them and then build solutions towards them. And if we're not spreading awareness and discussing these issues, we're not really in the space to be building solutions for them, are we? This is fantastic work, guys. Yep, we've got a request for the link back in the chat. Wow, we're really glad to see that there's so many acknowledgements of all of these issues that we see. Water pollution is especially a big one for us here in Bermuda too, and can negatively impact those corals that we were talking about earlier. Coral bleaching as well, as Alex discussed too. If the corals do die off, then we're going to have a lot more adverse effects from that too. And corals, in fact, are responsible for mitigating a lot of the storm surge that we experience from hurricanes. And if we didn't have our corals around Bermuda, then we would be suffering from much worse water impacts from the hurricanes that we heard from Dr. Shepard are going to be a lot more intense and potentially more common in the future. These are great, guys. And again, we want to ask, how confident are you that you can make a difference on these issues? Somewhat confident seems to be the majority of the answer. Some of you say not confident at all, and that's important to acknowledge too, because we think as well that there's a lot of space for us to build that confidence. All of these issues, when we're naming them and when we're separating them into separate problems, are a lot easier to identify and then to address. Most of you seem to be at least somewhat confident though, or confident, and some of you guys in there are very confident too, and that's fantastic. We want all of you guys to build towards that confidence, because that same confidence, as we've heard from our youth activists as well, is built across from our hope. And it's built across from our ability to recognize that these problems are within our agency to affect and to manage. And the more that we work together and the more that we talk about these problems, the more confident and the more realistic it is that we can effectively make a difference on them. So thanks so much for those replies, guys. I'm really thankful to see that so many of you guys are coming around to at least build some confidence in addressing climate change issues. Because we're going to have to be. Again, these are going to be very pressing issues for all of our lives for the rest of them. And so we absolutely have a necessity to work hard on them. So guys, we're now going to introduce our first youth activist of the day. So please join me in welcoming Lassine Matunke.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here and honored to be part of such an amazing summit. Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Lassine Matunke. Thank you, William, for the introduction. And yes, I am a climate activist, as they may say. I will be bringing to you guys a presentation and speaking about kind of what Changemakers is. But before we do that, I would love to kick it off with a video to give you just a little bit of background of what I do as a youth climate activist, and then we'll go straight into the presentation. We used to play football around that tree. We used to, have picnics around that tree. We used to swing on the tree. So it was really like part of the community. A few years later, they cut down the tree. And so when they cut it down, I actually cried. That specific tree, growing up with it, seeing it grow with us and my friends, we had a bond almost. And so that's when I knew that I really love trees, have connection with them. My name is Lassine Matunke. I'm 17 years old. I come from Nairobi, Kenya.
Lassine was spurred into action by the sheer scale of woodland destruction in Kenya. Every week, hundreds of hectares of forest are lost. It's hard to wrap your head around that kind of scale, so Lassine turned to what he knows best.
I didn't have an idea of how that looked, but what I did is that I changed it to the size of football pitches, and it added up to the size of 138 football pitches every day. So being able to now think of 138 football pitches made me feel like I needed to do something about this. For me, that was the reason that I started this whole initiative, because I didn't understand how that was possible, basically. Yeah.
Lassine came up with an inspiring response. kicking off a campaign to replant the forests using football.
The idea was pretty simple. I committed as a footballer that for every goal I score, I plant 11 trees.
This simple but ingenious idea taps into his everyday passion. So far, Lisane and his teammates have planted over 2,200 trees, and his hope is that it sets a trend that catches on with footballers across the world.
Football has educated people about the environment. An example is how a player in Arsenal called Hector Bellerin, he has an initiative just like mine, and he basically plants trees for every game they win. And so that has actually been able to reach out to different fans about the environment and his cause and the reason he's doing it.
Tackling deforestation means more of us getting off the sidelines and getting involved like Lisane.
I feel disappointed because I feel that the other generations let us down, and they really expect my generation now to be able to know exactly what to do, how to do it. The way people are not taking this thing seriously, it just frustrates me sometimes, and I just feel like sorry. Sorry.
But Lisane does have hope.
One of my messages to young people is that every little thing that they do, no matter how small, makes the difference. Because imagine one of my friends planting a tree, and then he passes it on, and they pass it on, and they pass it on, and we have 1 million people planting a tree. That's 1 million trees that we didn't have. And so people don't understand, them just taking that action inspires so many other people. One, the entire world can be involved in this movement of Trees for Goals, and we can reverse climate change with it. And also young people like me who love to play football and who also love outdoors with one goal in mind, and that's to get the ball in the back of the net and plant some trees.
Thank you for that. Yes, so that is kind of my project, what I've been doing. I started it at the age of 12. And actually, before I started planting 11 trees, I just started with 1 tree. And from that 1 tree, I was able to inspire different, my friends that I played football with and the ones I played with at the football club. And from then on, I decided that, you know what, the learning about deforestation more and climate change and seeing the urgency needed, I changed it to 11 trees per go. Right, so whenever am I set to share my screen? Okay. So just as a heads up, I have been seeing kind of the work you guys have been up to, and honestly, it gives me a lot of hope to see how many young people are coming to such summits and spaces to, learn about what they can do and how they can make a positive impact. I'm also really happy with the experts, activists, and change makers that have been speaking here before me today. So what I want to focus on today is what is a change maker. And I understand that you guys are also now in the point of the summit where you want to see how you can make a difference. And hopefully I can inspire you through these different slides. So what is a change maker to me? A change maker, I feel, is somebody who makes a positive impact to their community or environment, as well as inspiring others to do the same. I think as much as you taking action to help your community, whichever small issue or big problem it is, no matter how small or big it is, it will definitely make a difference. And I think also there's an importance with inspiring and educating other people to do the same and following footsteps. Some examples of this, here we have Teens for Wildlife. Teens for Wildlife is led by a young leader called Tia Hamilton Kay, who happens also to be my sister. And she had really big passion and love for elephants and wildlife in general. And she heard about the poaching and trophy hunting that's happening to these African elephants, and the same feeling of just disappointment and how people are killing such beautiful creatures for things like ivory or for trophy hunting. And so she decided to take action by raising money and awareness in school to adopt different to adopt elephants that have been left because their parents have been poached or killed for trophy hunting. And in this space, there's an area called David Sheldrick where they basically rescue these infant elephants and take care of them. So she raised money through bake sales and just different activities in school to help the process of rescuing these baby elephants, as well as also bringing young students who have also never had the opportunity to see wildlife before to go and experience that and also get to touch them. Here's another real life example of another youth group, Change Makers. This group is called Kijani Tech, which is under Kijani World. Kijani stands for green. So this is basically green tech and the green world, which is what we're pushing for. And there's two guys in our group that are really passionate about technology, and they decided that they want to make a difference in the community to do with e-waste. And what e-waste is electronic waste. So things like broken telephones or broken TVs, and people tend to keep them at home. But what these guys decided to do, instead of them keeping them at home or disposing them wrongfully that can harm the environment, they started doing e-waste collections in different schools and neighboring communities. And altogether, they've been able to collect around 20 different tons. These were high school students, probably. And you can see in some of the photos, they've got, printers, TVs, fridges, dispensers, and etc. And what they do is they partnered with We Center, which is electronic waste disposal company that helps dispose these electronics the rightful way and also recycle what can be reused. And so they, partnering with these young people, were able to collect 20 tons, and it's still an ongoing project. So these are just some of the examples to show you guys that how you can use your passions, your talents, your interests to take responsibility and protect your environment, whether it's things like you're interested in books or you're interested in sports or you're a writer, whatever passion or talent you have, you can always have a way to give back or conserve your environment.
Hussein, we're going to go to a question and answer in just a minute.
All right, thank you for that. So just before we go into that, I just want to talk about my hopes for the future is to keep reading this change makers, creating these change makers who use their different talents, their passions and interests to make a difference in the community. Because as I said before in the video, no matter how small of a difference you make, it helps make a difference. So my hope is that young people from all over the world can start taking initiative and starting initiatives in their communities to inspire a change and to create a better world for us and for the future generations. So thank you very much, William. We can go into the questions.
Thanks so much, Hussein. That was incredible. Fantastic presentation and really inspiring too. And I'll share that inspiration with great mic drop there too. And I think there's definitely got to be some inspiration going on with the folks you're addressing too, because they would like to know a little bit more about your work. And first of all, just could you let us know as a baseline why the trees were being cut down, in particular there?
Right. So for the reason the deforestation happening in Kenya was for different reasons. One was for logging, for using of the logging, and then there was also just for clearing space for manufacturing or factories or just different land use. And a lot of it sometimes is also illegal logging. So there'll be just places, hidden places in the forest where maybe a lot of public people are not allowed to go to. But then years and years later, you start to realize that the forest is kind of shrinking and you're wondering why did this happen? So it's usually from illegal logging or just land use for factories, etc.
And did anyone discourage you from completing this mission at first?
Right. I don't think, no, I don't think I was discouraged as much. I just feel that maybe in the beginning, there was just like, oh, the doubt of like, how can you make an impact with deforestation by planting one tree? And then it went from planting that one tree to then planting 700 trees with my football team to then now planting over 10,000 trees altogether under my project. So it's just, as I said, starting with that small step, that first step is really crucial. And then from then on, there was a lot of encouragement to keep going.
And can we ask as well, what are your plans for the future in expanding this or in relation to climate activism?
It's a great question. So my plans for the future with my project is to start Trees for Goals in football clubs and schools all around the world, and for them to adopt this project into their schools as well as the education side of it, and also to reach out to FIFA and get them to adopt it into the different football leagues, professional football clubs, so that also they can be shown in something like World Cup or the Euros or AFCON, where there's billions of people watching. And so I think there will be a lot of awareness about such a problem, and people can also see that they can also make a difference in whatever shape or form. So that is my hope for the project and the goals that I'm trying to achieve now.
And I've got a last one as well that we're a little pressed for time on, but there's so many great questions coming in as well. And I'd love for us to have time to address them all. But there's one here. Do you think that East African countries as well can collaborate to tackle cross-border waste issues like plastic pollution and shared water bodies?
Yes, 100%. Actually, I was in an electronic waste kind of East Africa or Africa electronic waste conference not a few months ago. And we got to see how different countries are addressing this issue of electronic waste, plastic waste. And now we're creating a space where we can have networks and connect with other people to help build these different structures or projects to address the issues of waste in their countries. So 100%, I think we can definitely start collaborating in those ways.
It's fantastic, Lassane. And we want to thank you again for joining us and sharing so much with us. And I'm sure as well that your idea is something that us here in Bermuda would love to collaborate with you on and to share inspiration from you.
Yes, hopefully. Definitely, I'm definitely wanting to plan on doing something, even if it's a tournament or a football match, and get the trees planted and the goals in the back of the net. So thank you very much for having me.
It's wonderful, mate. And thank you so much for everything you're doing. Take care.
Yes.
So now to introduce our next and final subject matter expert for this year's Youth Climate Summit, I'm going to pass over to my co-host, Leah.
Thank you so much. Our subject matter expert of the day is Miss Natalie Mebane. Miss Mebane is a sustainability and policy expert with extensive grassroots organizing, fundraising, and campaign experience. She has been named as one of the Hill's top lobbyists in 2019, 2020, and 2021. Ms. Mebane has served on the board of directors of the Power Shift Network, Young Voices for the Planet, and Care About Climate, and currently serves on the board of the Partnership Project and the Student Conservation Association. She has a Master's of Science in Strategic Leadership towards Sustainability from the Blekinge Institute of Technology in Karlskrona, Sweden, and a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science and Policy from the University of Maryland, College Park. She has worked at some of the largest and most influential environmental organizations, such as the Sierra Club as the National Dirty Fuels Lobbyist, the Policy Director at 350.org, as the Senior Director of Climate Solutions at the Wilderness Society, and as the Climate Campaign Director at Greenpeace USA. She has served as the Vice President of Government Affairs for Rise to Thrive, an organization with a mission to empower and support women and femme leaders of color in the climate, environmental, and conservation movement. Today, Ms. Mebane is the Chief Program Officer for the International Youth Climate Organization 0 Hour and works with youth around the world to build a powerful and inclusive movement for activists fighting for a just and sustainable future. She is the Director of Campaigns and Advocacy for Generation Green, which fights for environmental liberation by organizing throughout the global Black/African diaspora. She works to build an environmental movement that truly fights for the people most harmed by fossil fuels and impacted by change. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Ms. Natalie Mebane, who will present for 20 minutes, and I will give a 1-minute warning right before it is time to move into Q&A. So all throughout her presentation, please drop any questions you have in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I'm going to go ahead and begin my screen share. Okay. Can everybody see that okay? Seems fine. Looks good. Okay, great. All right. I also have 2 screens, so you'll see me sometimes look over here, but I'll be mostly looking on here. So thank you so much. First of all, thank you for having me here. I am really excited to speak to you all today. And what I'm going to talk about today is what can I do? Really, what can you do? Oftentimes, the climate crisis and the environmental ecological crisis seems so huge, and it feels sometimes like it's overwhelming, and it sometimes can feel like there isn't much an individual can do to make a difference. I'm here to tell you that that is not the case, and that one person really can change the world. So we're going to discuss organizing for the world you know is possible and how one person really can change the world. So first of all, to think about, and this is a process that I went through when I was really trying to determine what I wanted to do in my life, what I wanted to do really just as an environmentalist. And so the first thing you have to do is ask yourself, what is your why? Your why is essentially your due north. It is the reason why you wake up. It is the thing that you cannot ignore, the thing that is always in you and that you will always remember that you have to work on each day. And that is going to be the key to developing what is your value add to this environmental movement, or just in general, what is it that you actually want to pursue? So some questions that I recommend you asking is, if you had all the money you wanted, what would you still set your alarm for to wake up to each day? Right? Right now, folks are waking up for school. They're waking up for a job. They're waking up because they have to. But if you had all the money and you didn't really have to do anything in particular, what would you still set your alarm to get up and do each day? Another question to ask is, what makes your heart beat each day? And what keeps you up at night? So what is that thing in your spirit that you are excited about every day? And what is that thing that you just can't get out of your mind when you're trying to go to bed? And what have you been doing as a volunteer that you would love to do for the rest of your life? So think about your career as something that you are thankful and lucky to get paid to do. But if you had all the money you needed, you would totally be fine volunteering. And what you know that you would do for free, find a way to get paid for it. And that is how you kind of ask yourself those questions of where you want to go in your career and just in general in your life. So when you can answer these questions, you have found your why. So I'll give a little background on how I got started. You guys heard, of course, my bio just now, but I'm going to show you where it really began. So in 2007, I graduated from college, from University of Maryland, College Park. And a few months later, I graduated in May 2007. A few months later, in November 2007, I heard about this giant youth climate summit that was going to be taking place at my former school at University of Maryland. And it was called Power Shift 2007. Power Shift was bringing together over 6,000 young people to University of Maryland for a multi-day conference to get trained in organizing, to have amazing speakers that taught us so much, and to overarchingly build community among young people who understood that the climate crisis was the most important issue of our times. So I attended this conference. I got there on a Friday. The conference was going to end on a Monday, and I truly did not know what to expect. And from the moment I entered the room, this was Friday evening, the speaker on stage made me realize that I had found my people. I realized that this was the type of work I was going to do forever. And I had just finished school and I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my career. I had my, new bachelor's in environmental science and policy, but I wasn't sure what type of work I wanted to do. Did I want to do more scientific type research, which I had done some internships on before? Did I want to do more social justice type work, which I had also done some work on? And I was just sort of lost. So thankfully, I went to this summit, which is very similar to the summit you all are having now. It was all 100% in person. And on the last day of the summit, we went, which is this picture here on the left, that was 22-year-old me. We went to DC, to Capitol Hill, and we did a lobby day. And lobbying, for those who aren't too familiar, it's when you go to speak to your elected officials about whatever issue or topic that matters most to you. And I had never done this before. I grew up in Maryland, right next to Washington, D.C. And DC was always so close to me, but I never thought that an individual could lobby. It never occurred to me that that was something that people just did. I thought that was something that just companies did to negotiate. But we went lobbying. And this picture on the left was the picture we took on the mall, the National Mall in DC, right after our lobby day. And we had a rally. And I discovered in that moment that this was something I was going to do for free, that I was going to, volunteer doing. And I told myself, one day they're going to pay me for it, one day. And so this was November 5th of 2007. And I say to folks that that was the day that I actually found my career and found my why. I also found from this conference the importance of grassroots organizing and how you build power in order to change the world. And this is just a quick snapshot of what I did since I found that why, since I found what I was meant to do. And so, as my bio said, I've worked in a variety of places, and I've put on a variety of events, a variety of marches, of lobby days, of everything in between, worked on, congressional campaigns. This is a member of Congress who just left Congress, Katie Porter. This picture here in the bottom right, that is actually supposed to be a polar bear. And no, I'm not the one in the costume. I did take the picture. I was organizing on the campus of Northern Virginia Community College, and I recruited students to join me. And I was just, a year out of school myself. And I even got a student to agree to walk around in what was supposed to be a polar bear costume, but everyone has told me it looks like a dog that has problems, but it's supposed to be a polar bear. And we were getting students involved to get recycling on campus because they didn't have adequate recycling on campus. And the students themselves were organizing to do that. And here in the upper right, this is a picture of a hearing that I put on in September of 2019 when Greta Thunberg was in Washington, D.C. and New York. I was in charge of her D.C. schedule. And so this is when I was at 350.org. And I was able to plan a joint session, a joint hearing between two different committees that came together. And I was able to have her testify in Congress, as well as the person to the right of her, Jamie Margolin, who is the original founder of Zero Hour, which is an organization I'm in as well. And one other testifier from Vic Barrett, who is one of our Juliana plaintiffs, which is suing the United States government for the right to a safe climate. And so it was a great week. We had an amazing lobby week with Greta. And we then subsequently had the September 20th large climate strikes that took place, where 7.4 million young people marched all over the world, about 12,000 in DC and about 300,000 in New York City. And so I was able to help plan the DC March, as well as the lobby week with her and the rest of Zero Hour. And this is a picture, my favorite of all time, is a picture of the DC Zero Hour March, which I'll get into and tell a bit more of the story of how this came together. We decided to do a climate march July 21st, 2018, and it was actually the rainiest day of the year, and we were having severe climate-induced floods. So we literally put on a climate march in a flood in a climate event. So can't let climate change get in the way of your climate rallies. You have to still push through. And then this is also from the September 20th, 2019 strike, which was the same strike that we did that whole week of action. So just sort of a quick overview of some of the things we've done. And this is all since I was able to really discover what my why is and to really determine what I wanted to do with my life. So how to build a global movement. I'm going to tell you the story of how a kid who was 15 helped build and start a global movement. And the first place you start is with you. You have to decide what it is that you want to accomplish, what is your actual goal, and what is your value add to this movement. And you have to commit. You have to decide that you are going to do this no matter what, and you are going to find the right people to join you. But the first person you have to recruit to build this global movement is yourself, and determining if this is something you really want to do and what are your particular skill sets that you have and what's missing, because how you build your team is going to be the main factor in your success. So the first thing you have to do is find your people, and you must work with people who have the same goals as you and who have a lifelong commitment to the movement. And so in this picture here, I'll just tell you sort of I'll go over the very, abbreviated version, since for time, of how Zero Hour came to be and how it spurred and is the main, factor behind the creation of the global climate strikes movement. So here in the middle, you can see from my cursor is Jamie Margolin. She was the original founder of Zero Hour. When she was 15 years old, this was in 2017, she had just finished her freshman year of high school and summer break was starting. And she was super excited, school's out, so happy. And unfortunately, there were severe wildfires in Canada that was blanketing the entire Pacific Northwest of the United States in thick smoke. She's from Seattle, Washington. And she couldn't go outside. You weren't even allowed to open your windows. You had to keep your windows closed at all time. And many of her family friends were having to go to the hospital for breathing problems because the smoke was so thick you couldn't see the mountains around. So here she was, summer after her freshman year of high school, trapped in the house because of climate change. On top of that, this was June 2017, President Trump decided to pull the United States out of the Paris Agreement, which was a campaign promise of his. He fulfilled that very quickly. And he said that climate change is a hoax. And so he didn't want to waste any time or money or any energy to do anything about it. So she was watching the president of the United States claim that what she was experiencing in that very moment was a hoax and not real. And she was so angry. She couldn't vote yet, right? The voting age in the United States is 18. And she's like, what can I do? I can't even vote, but we have to do something. Young people are facing the absolute worst and longest term impacts of climate change, but then they have no political power. So she was so fed up. In July of 2017, she wrote on a piece of paper, "Youth March on Washington, who's with me?" And she stuck it in a window and took a picture and just posted it on her Instagram. And it was just like a cry for help into the universe, like, who's with me? And she wasn't even really expecting a response. But then she got a direct message on Instagram from this person right here, Nadia Nazar, who was all the way in Maryland on the other side of the country. Nadia had started following Jamie on Instagram because earlier that year, she was in class and her teacher passed out a magazine for folks to read, like an informative magazine. And there was an article in there written by a kid, Jamie Margolin, who was talking about climate change. And she was talking about the importance of fighting climate change and what young people can do. So she really liked this article. It really inspired her. And so she found Jamie on Instagram and started following her. So when Jamie made this post, Youth March on Washington, who's with me, she saw it. And she sent her a direct message and said, I'm with you. So then she said, okay, cool. This other 15-year-old on the other side of the country is interested in joining me. So they start talking, they start kind of planning, what can we do? What are we going to do? A month later, Jamie, who's here, goes to a summer camp in New Jersey at Princeton. They had this 3-week summer camp. And she meets 2 more people. She meets Zanaji Artist, who's right here. And she meets another person, Madeline, too, who isn't pictured in this picture. She'll be in the next one. And she tells them about her idea that she wants to do a youth march on Washington and in cities around the world, because it's time for young people to come together and advocate for themselves. They say, cool, let's do it. Zanaji was based in Connecticut. Madeline was based in New Jersey. Nadia in Baltimore, Maryland, and Jamie all the way in Seattle, Washington. They start coming together in August of 2017 and decide that they are going to put on a massive global march for young people. A few months later, in January 2018, I was starting on the board of the Power Shift Network, which was the exact organization that I had gone to the Youth Climate Summit to in 2007. Now, just slightly over 10 years later, I was now a board member of this org that inspired me and really started my career. And my first day on the board, I'm back at our Power Shift. It was a yearly all-team meeting. So the whole board comes, all the fiscally sponsored orgs, all the staffers. And so Jamie was there because her organization, 0 Hour, was fiscally sponsored by Power Shift Network, which essentially means that they lend you their IRS tax status so that you can have an official nonprofit. And she heard me do my intros, and that I was at Sierra Club, I was a lobbyist at Sierra Club. And she thought, I really want to do a lobby day as part of this week of action in DC. I would love to find somebody who has that. So very important, finding your people. She knew that she hadn't had the experience of, putting on a massive lobby day. So she wanted to find somebody who had. So she just approaches me and is like, hi, I'm Jamie. I wanted to meet you. And I'm like, oh, I actually wanted to meet you too. I heard you speaking earlier and I wanted to find out more about your org. And she goes, oh yeah.
Sorry.
What happened? Oh, 1 minute warning. Oh my gosh, let me hurry up. So anyway, the main thing is she recruited me in to join her to help plan this lobby day and to put on this action. So finding your people, how to build your team. Here we are now after the action was completed. 0 Hour planned 25 marches around the world, including Washington, D.C. We had a march in Kenya. We had a march in England. We had a march everywhere you can imagine. And pictured right here is Madeline, too. That's the other founder who Jamie had met in New Jersey that year. And together, after this week of action with our massive lobby day and those 25 cities around the world, many of those cities then became 0 Hour chapters. Now, jumping ahead after the march ended in July, we get a message from this young girl in Sweden who said that she had been working on the Stockholm March. We also had a march in Stockholm, Sweden, and that she decided that instead of doing the march, she wanted to do her own individual action. So in August, she decided to sit outside of Parliament with a sign on a Friday and said that she was school striking. She was striking for the climate. And so that was Greta Thunberg. And she said that she was inspired by watching the 0 Hour marches, including the one in Stockholm, and that she wanted to join in as well. And she invited us to join her and said, hey, if you guys want to join me in skipping school every Friday, this is something I'm going to start doing. And we started working with her. And that became the Global Strikes climate movement that we see today of Fridays for Future and striking from school on Fridays. And so just seeing how it's all connected, that one person was mad about wildfires and climate change and decided that they were going to do something about it and then brought together a team. Everyone is wet in this picture because, as I said, we were marching in a flood. And so accomplishing your goals. Main thing is Put your goals on paper. Write down exactly what you want to do. This photo is a picture from that lobby week in 2019, where we were able to meet Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the speaker's balcony of the United States Capitol. You have to be invited by a member of Congress who has to accompany you. And this is the balcony that looks over the National Mall. This balcony was pictured in my first picture. And so this is us with some of our team, as well as many of the Juliana plaintiffs. And this was one of those great lobby weeks. So looking back, I can see the goals we've accomplished. And then just staying the course. Sometimes you're going to face a lot of challenges. Sometimes you're going to have setbacks. This is a picture here of a rally that we did because the United States EPA was being challenged by West Virginia, essentially to make coal great again. And EPA lost that case. And so it was very devastating. And here we have the Juliana plaintiffs, the kids who are suing the United States government, telling the president, President Biden, to let their case go to trial. And unfortunately, the Biden administration has still been stopping them from going to trial. But you push through no matter what. And the main question you ask yourself is, what do you want to build? What do you want to protect? Who do you want to build with? And what do you want to fight for? And that is, and who do you want to fight for with? And when you have those questions answered, you can begin building your global campaign and really fighting for whatever issues that are most impactful to you. So thank you so much, everyone, for having me. And I'll go ahead to move into questions.
Thank you so much. So moving into our Q&A, the first question I would like to ask you is, how would you encourage other young people to connect with like-minded climate activists around the world?
Oh, very good question. Well, actually, I'm happy you mentioned that because I can actually start. I can go ahead and stop screen sharing real quick. I actually have an opportunity for folks who are interested in working within the Black and African diaspora for an event that I'm co-hosting on December 6th and 7th, which, let me see, am I still screen sharing?
Yes.
Is it still? Okay, sorry, I'm trying to find the controls of the Zoom. It disappears. Okay, sorry, I just could to do that. Anyway, I'll stop screen sharing. An opportunity for folks who, oh, did it stop screen sharing now? Okay, thank you. That I will drop in the chat. So I think the best thing is now that social media is around, that's actually what built Zero Hour, was that folks, it was literally just teenagers finding each other on social media. And then of course, some of them found each other in person at that camp. And so one of the best ways is just talking to people around you, because you don't really know what people want to do until you ask them. And so for Jamie, she just sort of put that message into the universe, not even sure if she was going to get a response. And she did. She got one response, one person. And that's all it took to start building. So first thing is talk to your friends, talk to your family, and just start telling people your idea of what you want to build. Another thing, I just dropped it in the chat for folks, this is an organization that I'm also part of, Generation Green. We are building a global ecosystem of mostly young people around the world who identify as part of the Black or African diaspora to come together. And we're having a town hall on December 6th and 7th. So if you want to, feel free to click that link and you can register as well. And we're building a coalition essentially of thousands of young people to work on any environmental issue that they see fit and to kind of build that community globally through online. But very great question.
Thank you. Next question I would like to ask, what are your plans for the future as a lobbyist?
Well, right now, as folks are aware, 2 weeks ago, the United States had an election, and it was a very interesting election, we'll just say. So it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle in the next several years. I was working at Sierra Club as a Dirty Fuels lobbyist during the first Trump term, and now, still working as the second Trump term hits. We are really going to be playing a lot of defense in terms of defending things that we have already done and wins that we've already achieved, as we do expect, President Trump and his colleagues to try to roll back a lot of provisions that we've won. Mainly what we're going to be doing is stopping the expansion of liquefied natural gas exports, which is LNG for short. which is proposed to have a huge build out in the Gulf of Mexico. And LNG is actually worse for the climate than coal. It's actually been measured to be 33% more pollutive than coal. And it causes huge human rights problems. It's absolutely a monster. 0 Hour in particular is focusing on our campaign called Getting to the Roots of LNG, where we are doing an education campaign to tell people and educate people around the world about the dangers of LNG so that we can build public support in the United States, especially to stop it.
Okay, and last question will be, what advice would you give to the young people seeking to leverage political power for climate action?
I would say first is learn the issues that you really, really want to fight on. When we started our Getting to the Roots of LNG campaign, we started working on it February of 2023. We had a leadership retreat and I was like, listen, I think this is the most pressing issue that we have to fight for. And, oh, thank you for the roots. Yes, definitely getting roots to LNG. And the biggest hurdle was first all of us learning the ins and outs, because sometimes this stuff is complicated. We have to learn the process of how gas is super cool to become liquid, is shipped. We had to learn so much. And then once we learned it, we had to then create the presentation to teach it to others, because we were like, how do we mobilize people and organize folks against these issues if they don't even know the basics? So that's why we started with our education campaign, where we have a PowerPoint presentation that we give to people around the world. So far, we've delivered it to thousands of people so far globally. We actually launched it in Bonn, Germany at the climate conference in Bonn, Germany. And they had a youth climate summit there. And so we actually launched it there with hundreds of youth in attendance. So I would say absolutely first, learn the issues that you care about. And once you feel like, okay, I can actually talk about them freely, start talking about them openly to other people, build a Canva PowerPoint presentation with your friends, and start hosting events at your schools, start talking at community events, and start finding other people who also want to be involved and tell them exactly what your vision is. When Jamie was launching 0 Hour, she told everyone, I want to have climate marches, youth climate marches all around the world. She had 25 in a single day. I watched 15-year-olds plan 25 marches in a single day, for a day, not in a day, but they had them on a day, July 21st, 2018. So don't think that your age or your education, like you haven't finished high school yet, you don't have a college degree, don't think that that stops you, because I can definitely testify that it does not stop people from taking action.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mubane, for your presentation and just sharing your knowledge. Was very informative and very inspiring to me. So thank you so much for coming onto this platform. And
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for having me.
No problem. I would just like to move into our next Menti poll for the day. The link should be dropped in the chat, but you should have kept the tab open from the former Menti polls that were introduced today. And our question is, what have you taken away from Ms. Mubane's presentation? All right, so I learned that one person can make a difference, and all we need is to be determined with what change we want to make or what we want to accomplish, and then go for it. I totally agree with this. We all just need to settle down on what we truly believe in and try and make a name for it and represent it to our fullest ability. To surround yourself with people that share your belief and goals. Finding people with the same passions as you and same goals and outlooks on life. And people can connect with each other by just using social media and having an idea. I love these responses. They are really great to me. And I would just like to pass on to my co-host now to introduce our NGO videos of the day.
Thanks so much, Leah. And as well, that's so inspiring to hear from Ms. Mubane and about the global reach. I'd just like to remind everybody that we've got Lasine joining us from Kenya today. We've got activists from all over the world. I'm in fact in Azerbaijan right now at the UN conference, and there are thousands of young people from all over the world connecting and building community on projects together. This is a global movement, and you guys are all a part of it. And we're very happy now to introduce some of our local actors as well in Bermuda who are actively working on this, so we can build some community with them too.
My name is Miles Darrell. I'm the head of natural heritage at the Bermuda National Trust, and I love protecting and preserving our environment, and that really means addressing the issue of climate change as a top priority. Everything we do here at the Trust is done by, sure, the team, but it's a very small team. It really relies on volunteers, and I'd say a strong part of our volunteer membership is youth and young people in general. A year between the educational work that we do and the work on the ground, actively engaging in the removal of invasive species, planting of new trees, and actively doing things to mitigate climate change, young people are at the heart of it all. I think we have lots of reasons to be optimistic and hopeful here, especially in Bermuda, because we're actively engaged in works to mitigate climate change and we're finding success. That gives me hope. The young people here on this island are smarter than ever, they're more capable, and they're more technologically advanced than me. So I feel really confident that there's hope and reason to think that we can be resilient and fight this and win.
Young people undertaking the Duke of Edinburgh Award are not only embarking on an adventure, but are also developing a deep and lasting connection to the environment. Through their adherence to leave no trace principle on their adventurous journeys, young people learn and demonstrate a profound respect of nature and ensuring they leave the world better than they left it. Also, through their individual activities, like their skill and service sections, participants dedicate countless hours to sustainability and climate action causes. By doing this, they go beyond temporary action, fully immersing themselves in the vital work to protect our planet. Engaging in these causes over a long period of time fosters lifelong commitment and shaping them into world stewards for the earth, and who will continue to be champions of our earth and environmental sustainability for years to come. The award journey of learning and actions offers hope that today's youth will carry the torch of environmental care into the future, ensuring a healthier, more sustainable world for our generations to come. Our participants' dedication and growing awareness of the importance of these efforts are a powerful reminder, and lasting change begins with consistent and thoughtful action.
We're all ready!
Hi, I'm JP Ruja, and I'm from the Non-Such Expeditions, Station B, and BioQuest. We do conservation tech development, and a previous project that's relevant is with Woods Hole and MIT. We tested devices that quantify carbon sink from marine snow. So this device was developed by Non-Such Expeditions and our partner Station B as part of a Darwin grant, and basically it's a time-lapse camera that you strap to the seagrass cages to see who's coming and going and track the different parameters, the water temperature, the light, the power, and all that. So the goal of this is to be able to tell you why some seagrass cages are working and others aren't. The Non-Such Expeditions, we use technology to assist with conservation, and one of the biggest youth engagements has been through our Cahao cams and reaching out into the schools where they're able to see the live streams of what's going on in the nests and track the life cycle of the cow. You are the hope, because it's too late for us. We're putting everything in place so you can take that mantle forward, and we really need more of you doing what we're trying to do now. So please, if you're at all interested in conservation or engineering or anything that crosses over, then stick to it, because you're needed now more than ever.
Hi, good day. I'm Christian Chingaret, and I represent Bermuda's Love. We're an organization looking at different aspects, and I head up the environmental aspect. Hence, I'm here talking to you. So I still consider myself a youth. I think I always will. And we are connecting other youths through our use of social media to allow for others to connect to events such as our own events, or connecting with other charities and other organizations so they're aware of those events that are coming up, such as blood drives, which are important for people's health and wellness. We do trash cleanups, as everybody else does in Bermuda, to ensure that people connecting and getting rid. And I personally like Bermuda's Love because we do lots of different charity organization events. So it's a medley of different things that even I myself wasn't aware of organizations existing. Because as individuals, we can't do much, but as a community, as a group, we can create waves in the world. You can go fast by yourself, or you can go far with others. So I think we should all connect in groups, organizations, or however you feel is most appropriate to go far to ensuring that we ourselves survive, as long with our earth that we live in, our home.
Wonderful. And I hope you guys really enjoyed hearing from those guys. Special shout out as well to Bermuda's Love, as that's my team, and I head up the Right to Food branch of that, as that's one of my favorite areas of climate activism to partake in. So I want to ask you guys, which of those climate-related projects are you guys aware of already? Which of them are new to you? And again, which of those projects would you potentially like to know more about? And again, keep those answers close to you. Because again, at the Environmental Showcase, which you'll be attending tomorrow on site at BUEI, you'll have the opportunity to connect with those organizations. And you'll have an opportunity to build some team and some community along with them to tackle shared issues. Wow, this is fantastic, guys. I see that most of you guys at least have seen the Audubon Society. But not so many with the Keep Bermuda Beautiful group or WaterStar too. At least there seems to be some diversity too around which of these are new. And again, we're glad that they're new to you too, because now they're not. And now these are on your radar. And if you would as well like to get involved with these groups, they're all right there for you. And they're there for you to reach out to. And they're teams that are already established that you can join and you can amplify their impact, or again, potentially come to them with ideas of your own and ask them if they would like to support your ideas, which I'm sure many of them would. So guys, we're now going to turn over to our final youth activist for the day, and I'm going to introduce my co-host again to bring her on.
Thank you. Our next youth activist for the day is someone that I am especially excited to hear from. Joining us all the way from India today is Reedma Pandey. And right before I pass over to Reedma, we are going to watch a trailer of a film that she was featured in titled The Letter.
The Vatican releases Pope Francis's wildly anticipated encyclical on the environment.
La naturaleza grita. Deténganse. Deténganse.
Protéger climatique. Un manque de la protection de la nature qui pousse aujourd'hui de nos populations à quitter chez nous.
É perder a terra, a floresta, o grande agronegócio que está chegando aí.
Marine heat waves are causing an unknown amount of death among corals.
I want all the global leaders to do something to stop climate change, because if it's not going to be stopped, it's going to harm our future.
Queridos poetas sociales, porque ustedes son poetas sociales porque tienen la capacidad y el coraje de crear esperanza allí donde solo aparece descarte y exclusión.
Je n'arrive pas à rester tranquille. Parfois, j'ai un esprit qui voyage.
O mundo vai mudar. Porque o que estava encoberto, hoje está sendo descoberto.
Il faut lisser des liens très forts et il ne faut jamais rompre ce lien.
You are my hero, you are.
Che nessuno di noi è un'isola. Abbiamo tutti bisogno gli uni degli altri.
Wondema, pour yimɓe mbaɗa protéger l'environnement.
Try to be the change you want to see in the world.
We arrived as individuals with very different stories, but we all shared a dream.
Hello everyone. Hi from cold and polluted India. India is very polluted right now if you see the news. So yeah, hello, hi. It's very nice to be here. And yeah, that trailer gives me a lot of nostalgia seeing all of that. So today I will majorly, so it's gonna be super, I think, fun session, because I will be sharing about my journey, about how I became an activist and how my life was changed from being a young person who was scared of flash floods to somebody who started taking action and very confidently shook hands with the Pope. So my story starts from 2013 when the Kedarnath flash flood occurred. So in 2013, I was 5 years old. I live in a state called Uttarakhand, which is very beautiful. It is known for its natural heritage. But in 2013, the Kedarnath flash flood occurred and it changed everything. I was sitting at my house. I was enjoying my life, being a normal 5-year-old, and suddenly everything changed. Because I saw these visuals. This one visual changed my entire life. All I could see on television was people crying, kids crying that they've lost their family members, kids crying that they cannot find their house, they cannot find their family members, and they don't not know what they're going to do next. And that entire visual, those videos, those images had a huge impact on me, on that 5-year-old girl, that I started imagining myself in the place of those kids. I started imagining that what would I do if I would be hit by a flash flood. I didn't know what a flash flood was at that point of time. I went to my mom and I was like, what happened? Why is everything destroyed? What is that? Is it here? Is it where I live? Is it where we live? Is it in our state? And that's when she introduced me to what a cloudburst and flash flood was. And from that point of time, I started having constant nightmares of dying because of a flash flood, losing my parents, losing my house, or, not being able to survive a cloudburst. And, I survived, but I lost everything. And it had a huge impact on me. I couldn't concentrate on my schools. I was not enjoying my life. I was always dreaming, and I was in this whole entire world of mine where I would be thinking of how I would survive. And that is when, after struggling because of these nightmares for so long, I went to my mom and I asked her, I want you to stop flash floods because I don't want to die. I eventually don't want to lose you guys or my house. And that's when my mom introduced me to what climate change and global warming is. So she told me that, okay, so this is how it is. I put a pot of water on a stove, and as gradually I increase the flame of the pot, the water starts boiling up. That's sort of the same with what is happening with the earth. There is earth, our actions, human actions are acting as the heat. And as humans are getting more and more greedier, the flame underneath the earth is increasing and the temperature of the earth is increasing, which is causing you guys to struggle. So for me at that point of time, human activities meant people driving cars. So I was like, why is it changing the temperature of the earth? Okay, somebody's driving car. Why is it dangerous for me? How is it causing climate change? And how is it causing flash floods? And why is it impacting me? Why would I be impacted? And that was what made me interested in terms of to learn more about climate change. And gradually, as I learned about child rights. I learned about how they've been violated. I learned about how the older generation, specifically in India, didn't really care about how their actions are impacting the young children. And that's when I decided that I want to do something. I want to take action. And it started back in 2017 when I filed my first petition against the government of India. So in the beginning, it was not always the case that I wanted to file a petition against the government of India. What I wanted to do initially was to take action. And my parents, my lawyers, simply they asked me a question in terms of who do you feel is the most responsible person? And the very first thing that came to my mind was straight up the government. Because see, they have the power, they have a lot of influence, they are responsible for making people follow the rules and norms if they are not. And they are meant to make people realize that these norms are good for you. And if somebody is not following the norms, it is their duty to make them follow it. But they were not using their powers, all the powers and everything that they had in their hands wisely, and they were just exploiting everything. And that was impacting me and my child rights. And I wanted them to stop. So I went to National Green Tribunal. I went to the court and I said, okay, this is impacting me. This is about my life and I want the government to change. I want them to fulfill their promises made during the Paris Agreement. And I want them to work on ground. I was very happy with my action. I was like, okay, I've made a huge change. Everything is going to change now. No more climate change, no more flash flood. Everything is solved. But fast forward to 1.5 years later, my petition was dismissed by the court, saying that the government was doing everything right based on the paperwork that they shared. Never mind, I tried my best, I did my best, and in 2019, I got to be a part of this lawsuit at United Nations, which was against 5 countries for violating child rights. I was so happy to be a part of that lawsuit because I was like, okay, India, okay. I was like, Indian government, you didn't listen to me. I'm going to the United Nations and now I'm going to make you see that you are wrong. And I was so happy that if this case could bring up positive impact, it would be an example for so many people out there, and it would be an inspiration for so many young people to take action. But nevertheless, that lawsuit was also dismissed because of not being able to exhaust some household remedies and stuff. But that also led to great changes. And then all of these actions, the actions that I took, that question that I had of why me and how me led me to deliver my first TED Talk back in 2019. I was 12 at that point of time. I was very nervous, very scared of going to stage. But all I knew was that this was for a better cause and, my voice matters. And I gave my first TED Talk, and then I started working. I was in the United Nations. I went there, I attended my first climate strike, and that was when I realized that, okay, in India, why isn't this happening in India? Why aren't youths coming out on the streets in India? What's wrong with them? What's wrong with us? And that's when I realized that, okay, Indian young people, they do not understand the urgency of climate crisis and the importance of their actions. And that is when I started my awareness program. So in 2017, I filed my first petition. I was 9, I attended my first international conference, and then from there, my journey started and it led to many actions. Once I came back from the UN, I started having workshops with young kids in India. So I used to go to their schools. We used to have workshops in terms of why your voice matters, why you should take action, why is it important for you, why it has to be you. Okay, I understand that was not our problem, but then at the very end, we are going to be the ones bearing the brunt of the actions taken today. We are the ones suffering the most today, and we are going to be the ones struggling the most in the coming years as well. So we have to be the one to take action. And from there, my journey started. I started taking action. I started attending events in terms of sharing about my journey, sharing about the grassroots communities of India, how they are getting impacted. And, why is it important for us to talk about those people on the front lines as well? And why is it important for us to address that, okay, we have to get a say in decision making. We have to be a part of this decision making process as well. And fortunately, I was able to, yes, I get it. Yes. Fortunately, I was able to be part of the film The Letter as well, where I met the Pope. And then I realized that, okay, your action matters. And all you need in your life is that one question of why and how, and that willpower to, yes, I can change the world. And yes, I have to do it, because if not me, then who else? And yeah, that is it for my presentation. And yeah, let's connect. Let's chat now.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your presentation. We will just move into a Q&A now. So if anyone has any questions, please drop them into the chat. But the first question I would like to ask you is, have there ever been any times when you have felt like giving up? And if so, what motivated you to press on?
I think my entire journey was every single time I had this point of, okay, I don't want to do it anymore. When my petition got dismissed from the National Grain Tribunal, I was like, okay, it's done. I cannot do anything. But then again, I felt like, okay, I'm going to die. I have to do my best. I have to do my best. And then when the United Nations petition got dismissed, again, I was like, UN couldn't do it. How could I? But then again, I felt like, okay, at least I should try my best. And yeah, I think just seeing other young kids and other young people doing their best and trying their best, and then some amazing people from the frontline communities doing their very best to represent their communities, I think that's what gives me hope in terms of if they could do it with the least resources they had. So then I can at least try my very best to at least represent them and, bring change for my community and for my generation.
All right. Next question is, what do you think the value of going to court for climate?
I think everything has its own importance, to be very honest. Our strikes, our campaigns are really, no doubt they're great, they're amazing. It creates a lot of awareness, among people, and it helps us stay connected. But then I feel, again, taking legal action could be important when you're working against the government or sometimes when you're challenging the government, because if there is any positive outcome coming from that lawsuit or the legal action that you took, the government or anybody you're doing the case against is going to be bound to take action or to do what they were meant to do. So I think legal action some or the other way kind of binds people to change in a way that we wanted them to. And yeah, I think it kind of if the legal action is passed in your country, that's not the case in India, then I think it can really help us bring changes, specifically working with big companies and governments.
And our last question is, how did you get involved with the United Nations?
So for me, when I filed my lawsuit against the government of India, it got covered by a lot of international media outlets as well. So there was this law firm called Hosfield, those who were planning to do a petition at the United Nations, and they wanted young people to represent, different voices. So I was representing my continent. So I was approached by my law firm in terms to be a part of the petition. So I think that sort of is how I got the opportunity to be at the United Nations. And then from there, we just started building connections and, met somebody and just built networks and got connected and started working.
Wow, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today. Your presentation was very exciting and I feel like I learned a lot. So I really hope that the other people participating in this call have also learned something. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure being here. Thank you.
And I would like to pass back now to my co-host William to talk more in depth about our track selection.
Thank you so much, Leah. That's right, guys. It's that time now. We've been talking about it all week, but it's time for you to think about and decide what project actions you would like to undertake. So we're going to ask you now to please click the link in the chat and please take some time to fill out the Google form that will link you to and decide whether you'd like to engage in a project perhaps related to conservation, sustainability, or climate justice. And again, for the alumni, please select that one. Whether you'd like to get involved with conservation and protecting the environment and its natural resources, or sustainability and preserving our resources and ensuring that we don't have further climate change impacts, or perhaps again, as we've heard from many of our actors too, pursuing climate justice and activating ourselves to really bring a voice towards these issues and build awareness and drive forward positive. Again, you'll be joining your other fellow track attendees on Friday at the BUEI, and you'll all be working together to devise what kind of projects you would like to work together on. It's an opportunity for you to build your team, and as well for you to network and connect with each other and decide how you can be a voice and a force for positive change in Bermuda and around the world. Hey guys, hope you've had enough time now to fill in that Google form and to select a track. And as well, keep in mind that we will be discussing these tracks on Friday, as well as you can keep in touch with the other organizers as well in case we have time for those guys. We're now going to transition towards our closing, and we're going to introduce now a final Menti poll. And we'd like you as well to reflect now on what we've heard this week. And we're also going to ask you to make a word cloud now of talents and interests and skills that you might have. And we want you as well to think about these in context of your passions and things that you enjoy. And remember that all of these things are impacted or can impact the climate in all sorts of crazy ways. And you can transform these passions and interests into positive changing activities. Even Lucine earlier was able to plant over 10,000 trees just using the power of football. And I remember on Monday that there were a lot of us in here who were very passionate about football too. Art and music is certainly something that we're going to definitely need to engage with too, because that too is important for how we respond and how we react as humans to this important crisis. There's lots of art and music to be made and created around climate change. volleyball and sports and gymnastics. There's all sorts. Taking care of animals. That's right. Yep. Dog training. All of these things can have an impact. We did have our word cloud results again from that opening poll that you did on Monday too, about what environmental issue you feel is most pressing. And we want you to as well consider how these impacts or these issues could potentially be impacted by skills that you could bring to bear on them and what you could do to leverage them. So we want to ask you another question in this Menti. How could your passion or talent be used to make a difference to your climate-related topic that's most of interest to you? Problem solving is at the core of this, absolutely. And dancing too, because we're going to have to dance through this because this is heavy stuff. And if we don't have time for dance, well, it's going to be hard. And we could write songs about it, that's right. And you could encourage your teammates to use metal water bottles and not plastic too. And as well to remind them that those plastic water bottles aren't as good for their health. Someone said that one can intimidate those who don't believe in the climate crisis. And while we absolutely wouldn't at all advocate for intimidating anybody, it's absolutely necessary that we bring people along in hope and help people understand that we can build peace and we can build a better climate together. Visually impacting, that's right. Pick up any trash you see on the ground. Yeah. All of these things are just, again, taking notice of the things around us and how we can have a positive impact on them. Remember again that Sharona just started by seeing trash on the ground and deciding that she didn't want it there. Core themes here are encouraging us all to make a better world and to build community and build a team around this. That's right. And making it a fun challenge. That's right. Because again, this has to be fun, guys. I mean, it absolutely can be. This is the very act of us working together in teams to build a better world together. And that can really be a fun thing too. Fantastic. We're so glad to have all of your answers, guys. And we're so glad as well that you guys are thinking about how to apply your skills and your interests and your passions towards addressing climate change issues. And again, to remember that you'll have the opportunity to discuss these further tomorrow on the on-site event at the UEI and at the on-site event on Friday at the UEI as well. We're going to move towards our closing as well. And as well, we'd also very much like to take a moment to thank our showcase partners and our sponsor partners. These are the ones you see up on the screen right now will be the ones present at the Environmental Showcase tomorrow at the UEI. And we're hoping that you will be looking forward to meeting and connecting with them. We'd also very much like to thank the sponsor partners of our hosts for YCS too. All of these organizations have helped make this conference possible.
We look so forward to welcoming you all on site tomorrow when you'll have the opportunity to learn about local organizations that support Bermuda's environmental causes. And on Thursday, tomorrow's on-site session, there will be a panel presentation discussing emerging careers and our environmental showcase with the opportunity for you to meet one-on-one with the NGOs and corporate partners highlighted during the sessions and be able to ask them those questions and the things that you wanted to know most about when answering the Menti polls that were placed into the chat. Our guest activists, the youth activists that you had met, some of them will be on site to greet you tomorrow as well. And just a reminder of our Saturday action project, the Citizen Scientist BioBlitz at Spittle Pond from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., which you will hear more about during the on-site sessions.
Thanks so much, Leah. And we're going to start to close out our session for the day, but I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank all of you guys, and as well to note that a crucial impact of climate justice is passing that microphone as well, and ensuring that all of us can have a voice. And as well on that, because it's been my pleasure to host you for the next 2 years, for the last 2 years, I have the great pleasure of passing the microphone on to Leah to lead the event again next year. And I'd like to thank you all for your attendance in this and for having me as your host.